Romain Grosjean. On the opening lap of the 2020 Bahrain Grand Prix, Romain Grosjean, driving for Haas F1 team, clipped Daniil Kvyat's car at roughly 220 km per hour, 137 miles per hour, sending him directly into the steel barrier. The impact split the car in half and instantly ignited a massive 53G fuel explosion. Grosjean was trapped inside the burning wreckage for 28 seconds before managing to unbuckle and leap through the barrier. Viewers watching globally were certain they had witnessed a fatal accident. Tributes began forming before he miraculously emerged from the flames. Praised for his survival, he suffered burns to his hands and ankles, and the Halo safety device and medical car crew were universally hailed as lifesavers. Niki Lauda. On a fast left-hand bend before Bergwerk at the 1976 German Grand Prix, Niki Lauda's car suffered a sudden suspected mechanical failure, veering off the track into an embankment and bursting into flames. Trapped inside the burning inferno, he was severely burned and inhaled toxic gases after being pulled from the wreck by fellow drivers Arturo Merzario, Brett Lunger, Guy Edwards, and Harold Ertl. Lauda's injuries were so extreme that a priest was called to the hospital to administer last rites. Public and media reaction was one of profound shock. In an astonishing display of resilience, Lauda returned to race just 42 days later at the Italian Grand Prix. Gerhard Berger. Gerhard Berger suffered a massive front wing failure, heading flat out into the notorious Tamburello corner at roughly 290 km per hour, 180 miles per hour, during the 1989 San Marino Grand Prix. His car smashed straight into the concrete wall, disintegrating on impact, and immediately caught fire. The world watched in horror as flames engulfed the wreckage for nearly 20 seconds before track marshals extinguished the fire. Miraculously, quick-action medical staff revived him, and Berger escaped with only broken ribs and second-degree burns, returning to race just weeks later. Robert Kubica. On lap 27 of the 2007 Canadian Grand Prix, Kubica clipped Jarno Trulli's Toyota at the approach to the hairpin, launching him airborne into the concrete retaining wall at nearly 300 km per hour, 186 miles per hour. The car barrel rolled across the track, shredding completely while leaving the survival cell exposed. The impact was measured at a staggering 75 G. The severity of the wreckage left the racing world stunned. Broadcasters and fans feared the worst. Remarkably, Kubica suffered only a mild concussion and a sprained ankle, sitting out just one race. Fernando Alonso. On lap 18 of the 2016 Australian Grand Prix, Fernando Alonso attempted to pass Esteban Gutierrez, clipping the Haas's rear wheel at over 300 km per hour. The McLaren was launched into a violent barrel roll, slamming upside down into the barrier before ricocheting into a secondary gravel trap and concrete wall, completely destroying the car. The race was immediately red flagged as medical crews rushed to the scene. When the twisted metal was lifted, Alonso climbed out unaided and walked away. Spectators and pundits praised the modern safety cell, though Alonso later admitted he used up one of his lives. Martin Brundle. At the start of the 1996 Australian Grand Prix, Martin Brundle's car launched over the back of David Coulthard's Sauber, becoming completely airborne, flipping violently and splitting cleanly in half upon impact with the gravel trap. Live television commentators screamed in horror as the survival cell rolled across the ground, naked of its engine and rear chassis. Astonishingly, Brundle unbuckled, crawled out unhurt, sprinted back to the pits, and started the race restart in the spare car. Mark Webber. Mark Webber misjudged his braking zone and slammed into the back of Heikki Kovalinen's Lotus at close to 290 km per hour during the 2010 European Grand Prix. The Red Bull flipped upside down into the air, somersaulted backward, slammed into an advertising hoarding, and heavily crashed nose first into the barrier. The sheer height and violence of the flip horrified onlookers. Because the car landed squarely on its nose, commentators expected a catastrophic outcome. Webber calmly unclipped his seatbelts, crawled out of the upside-down cockpit completely uninjured, and walked back to the paddock. Mika Hakkinen. During Friday qualifying at the 1995 Australian Grand Prix, a rear left tire failure sent Mika Hakkinen's car careening straight into the concrete wall at extreme speed. The impact knocked him instantly unconscious, and his head suffered violent whiplash. The crash required trackside emergency workers to perform an emergency tracheotomy right in the cockpit to save his life as he choked on his tongue. He survived a skull fracture and returned to racing the following season, making it one of sport's greatest comebacks. Rubens Barrichello. During Friday practice at the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix, Rubens Barrichello hit a curb at the Variante Bassa chicane at 225 km per hour, launching his car into the air and into the tire barrier, where it flicked and rolled several times. Medical crews rushed to treat him as he swallowed his tongue, rendering him unconscious. Though this dark race weekend would later turn tragic with Ratzenberger and Senna, Barrichello's miraculous survival from what looked like a fatal blow was heavily covered as a lucky escape, returning to the paddock later that weekend with a broken nose and arm. Luciano Berti collided with Eddie Irvine's Jaguar at high speed, heading into the Blanchimont corner during the 2001 Belgian Grand Prix, destroying his front wing. Without steering control, his car went straight off the track at nearly 300 kilometers per hour, burying itself deeply underneath a wall of rubber tire barriers. The track went dead silent. Marshals and medical teams held up privacy blankets, a universally feared sign, while they dug the car out from the tires. Berti was pulled out unconscious with severe concussion and facial bruising, but miraculously survived the immense deceleration trauma.